So we are live with the Node.js release working group meeting for April 14th, 2022. We'll work through the agenda, which is in the Node.js release repository, and it's issue 735. But I guess starting with any announcements, I guess one announcement to make would be that Node.js 18 should be released next week. We have some RC builds, hope to submit a new one today. But yeah, all is lined up to do the 18.00 release next Tuesday. Are there any other announcements anyone would like to make? Okay, I assume not. So moving on to the agenda, as we typically do, I'll start going through the discussion points and then maybe review the release schedules afterwards, just so we don't keep hopping back and forth. So the first item on the agenda is a process for unintentional breaking changes. I think the exact PR that triggered this has now been fixed and the docs have been updated to reflect what was the unintentional change, which is good. But I guess the question for this call is there any update on that or any actions we need to take?
I opened that issue, in reaction to that PR. I don't think there's any update. One thing that I've kind of put on my to-do list is having like just some. You said that some of the docs were updated, but I don't. Were those the collaborator docs or were they the release docs?
The docs are updated in relation to like the specific breaking change. So
Got
the
it.
API docs. But yeah, we haven't got the process doc.
Okay, so some process docs would be helpful. I think like for collaborators and then also for releasers, if there's like action that needs to be taken or like how to communicate and all that stuff.
Agreed. So I guess like I'm kind of in the same state. It's like it's always been something on the list. I assume once we have like a guide, probably in the Node.js release repo, we can just extend it because I think there's a few other issues that we'd like to capture in there, like what to do when we've shipped a broken release, some other bits. For this call, as there's no update, part of me feels like let's untag it from the agenda and just put a comment in there saying, you know, the aim is to create a doc containing some of this information, but that'll happen when we all have time to make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds good.
Okay, cool. And then the following one was one I added, which is what to do when a release is broken guide. And I think that would just be a section in the same doc. So what to do when there's an unintentional breakage, what to do when an actual release is broken and we need to respin it. So possibly no extra discussion required on that one. And I will also take that one off. Proposal to rename the Stitching team to release automation. Actually, I think we had an action on this one and maybe it just got lost because we didn't pull the notes in. I think the plan was just to grant releases access to the automation repositories. So like branch diff and changelog maker if they don't have it already. So it may just be us needing to go back, check what the access rights are on those and the publishing rights and figuring it out. I think the exact ask to rename it isn't probably going to happen.
Yeah, that sounds pretty much like what my recollection.
Yeah. So again, after this call, just put some, maybe I'll comment in here, just say we don't plan to rename it, but instead we need to add access to X and Y to these repos.
I saw Brian open some PRs to fix the labeling problem with changelog maker, which is great. So it would be good to actually have access so that we could actually merge that, review and merge that.
Yeah, that's true. And test the publishing to make sure that we, when we have changes we need to make, we can go through the full flow.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I'll add some notes to that. I'll leave the release agenda item on this one until I've written that comment, and if that comment suffices, I'll remove it. I don't want to forget, and keeping the label on it will remind me on that one. Work out a policy around reverts for LTS branches. Again, I think this is part of the same thing. So once we have a starting guide, I can see us having sections on what to do with unintentional breakages, what to do when a release is broken, and then also another section which is a policy around revert. So do we revert on the main branch first and then LTS, or do we just revert in LTS? My assumption is that would be on a case-by-case basis, depending if we want to keep the change as a major on the main branch, but having that written down still makes sense under that doc. So is there anything to discuss on that one, the policy for reverts on LTS branches? I assume not. It'd probably be easier for us to figure that out as we are writing this document. So I'm going to pull open the schedules now. We can take a look at those. Give me a second, so I'm ready to share my screen. Okay, so starting with the release plan, which is what you should see right now. We have Node 12, Node 12 going end of life at the end of this month. So fingers crossed, no more releases.
This has been closed off, I think.
Yep.
Michael closed it off.
Yep. We should unpin it, I guess.
I don't think it is pinned, isn't it? I think we've only pinned.
Maybe that was this morning.
We can only pin 3 of them, so.
Yeah.
We've unpinned 17 as well. Yeah. That's right.
Makes sense. Cool. Where'd the 14 one go? Want to do them in order. Right. 14. So 14.19.1, did that ship?
No, we didn't have anyone volunteer for that.
Yes. Okay. I'll just take that date out. We still have a couple of weeks left of this month, so it is still possible we might do a patch release if we get a volunteer for that one. Would anyone like to volunteer here today? Not to put anyone on the spot. No, so I'll just update that when we get a volunteer. I'm assuming there's nothing too major that's driving us to do a release, so it's probably okay if it just gets pushed back slightly.
I can work in the release.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, feel free to choose whatever date works for you. For 14, because it's in maintenance, it's just a case of like cherry picking the things labeled LTS watch 14 and checking for any open backports. So in theory, there should only be like 20-30 commits max, that kind of ballpark. So
okay.
Okay, I'll put you down. Feel free to fiddle with the dates whenever you get ready, and if you need any help getting through that process, let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you for volunteering. 16. Danielle, I've seen you've been working on this. Would you like to just share the update?
Yes, I'm still working on it. I think I had posted that I was going to try to get it out today. So someone opened a backport for that big ASM PR that was kind of like had a bunch of stuff dependent on it. So I'm going to wait for that to go through. So I don't have an ETA. I mean, I guess like Tuesday or before is probably a good, that's what I could say about that. But yeah, that's
no worries. I think like Tuesday or even later next week would be, completely reasonable considering the like holidays and things. So
yeah.
So pushing it after the holidays, big plus one for me. One note on those 2 PRs. I don't know if there's more people we need to add in them. because I think like suddenly putting HTTPS imports and unflagging JSON modules in Node 16 seems quite significant. So I'm trying to think, maybe it's worth pointing people to those PRs to, my gut feels like folks like Jordan, the modules team, or the old modules team.
Yeah, I think that one had, let me see. For some reason, the link from the initial PR isn't showing up in the backport, which I thought was weird, but let's see, here it is. Yeah, originally Antoine had tagged a bunch of people, but now I don't see them. So maybe I'll just, or like added requested reviews from them, pretty much everyone that was an author and or contributor to the other PR. So I'm gonna go ahead and just assign this to all of those people and see and ping them and see if I can get more eyes on this. Yeah,
sure. That sounds great. I just don't want people to be surprised about
it. Yeah, I figured no one saw that I was like, hey, this isn't really landing, or I don't know what's going on with this PR. And so I don't want it to just like pop up in 16 and everyone's like, wait, what is this?
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. But yeah, thanks for all the work on release, and be good to get that one out.
Yeah.
So Node 17 now, we don't actually have any more releases planned. So I think Michael Zasso said there's nothing in the staging branch, so I suggest we close this. Are there any objections to closing this?
No objections.
Cool. And I click the button. And I also made a Node 18 release plan. I see Michael Zasso's volunteered for the next one. I've kept the same like 2-week cadence. We can also always do additional releases if needed. Often with the 18.00 release, we sometimes have to do an 18.01 shortly after. So at least there's room to do that a couple of weeks gap. So business as usual there. Feel free to volunteer for any of those. Probably not much more needed to be said on that one. And I think that's everything that was on the agenda today. So got through in 20 minutes. I guess one thing that should possibly be mentioned is that we have a repository where we're crafting the Node 18 release announcement. There's been some great contributions from various folks across the project. Just FYI, if you'd like to review, make sure that you have access to the repository. Any other updates, discussion needed today?
So with the fixes to branch diff that Richard was mentioning earlier, if folks could have a look and actually give that a go, there's not really tests in branch diff. I did test it locally. It did seem to work for me, but yeah, if folks could have a look at that, that'd be great.
Cool, thanks, Brian. Yeah, I'll try and do that and like compare the output of what we get, between the old and new, and check the majors aren't appearing anymore. So cool. Any other updates today? Okay, if that's all, I'll close out the call for today. Thank you for joining, everyone. We got some actions there, some things maybe more long running than others. So we'll just regroup next month. Bye.